No, baby, stay with Mommy. I'm here. Mommy's right here. Angie, no. No.
Please.
I love you, Marcus.
Sarah.
Okay, I'll admit something to you. This is I don't normally say this, but I got welled up watching the Division trailer earlier on today during the Ubisoft conference. Very beautiful piece of work, and what I thought really affected me was the sort of the values of the game, the sort of human nature behind it, the idea of you're trying to recover your city, and you promote that in a very personal way where we see a person obviously beaten up, possibly about to be killed. You stop that from happening, you reach out, pull them up, and it's almost like we'll protect you. I just wanted to sort of touch upon that, and what is the values of the Division? What are you trying to get across on a sort of human side?
Yeah, I think I mean you kind of nailed it. The whole, I guess the theme that we were going for with the CGI was to we were talking a little bit before this. There's a lot of times, especially in action games, which we're an action RPG. It's about things exploding. It's about big bass and big boom, and getting in touch with why do you care about taking back New York? If this scenario would have happened, which is possible. It's freaky to think about, but it is possible. Who would be there? Why would they be there? What would they do? And who are they saving? Those are kind of the things that we try to touch on. Why is it important to be a Division agent? Why would you want to be one? Why is it cool? And hopefully touching. And I think that our team working with Blur did a really incredible job, and we're very, very, very proud of it. And it touches me too. The first time I saw it, I was very blown away, actually.
Talking about using New York as the setting for this, is it because that sort of sense that New Yorkers have that love of the city, that ideal about it? There's something about the Big Apple that just resonates with people, even for people that have been there.
Yeah, I think I think that can be said for a lot of places in the States. I'm not from New York personally, but there is something about when you feel, I guess as an American, when you feel invaded or when something like this happens, something tragic, people pulling together is important. And then New York it's iconic. It's globally iconic. So being able to have, in the end, it's a game, and we want it to be a global game, and we want it to be interesting for people to, I want to go to Madison Square Garden. I want to check out Times Square. What is it like in the Division? What's happened in this situation? So for us, it was those were a lot of the factors in choosing the city for the I guess the ground zero, if you will, of the Division.
Are we talking sort of artistic interpretation of New York here? I mean, it's very much sort of open world, go where you want, but I guess you guys have to sort of shrink that down to fit in, or else you'll be spending the next 10 years trying to finish off the city.
Yes, I mean, the goal, it's not like a one-to-one, we're not creating a New York simulator with the Division. So New York is huge, and a lot of that area isn't, I would say, the most interesting, let's say, gameplay-wise. So what we do is we try to make sure that for the important locations, the different environments that we want to create, because it is an urban game, but fighting through a city all the whole time would not be very interesting as a player. So you want to have different biomes that kind of span the whole, everything that New York has to offer, and then create a gameplay space that's big enough to have the amount of content we want in the game. So that's how the decisions are made. If it's good for the game, if it fits, then we keep it in.
Let's sort of touch upon something that was mentioned during the presentation that we've just seen. With the overview of the map, top right-hand side of the map, there's different divisions between contamination level and is it security level, is it the breakdown of those, and that's all dependent on the actions you take during that particular area.
Yes. So those were a couple different things. The districts or areas themselves will have statistics, and those will be influenced by your actions as an agent. So you're able to basically raise the security, lower contagion, raise morale, which is the people you're saving, like in the CGI we were talking about. It'll allow you to eventually unlock a base of operations, which is the whole kind of that's the mission that the players are on in the main stage demo that you saw earlier today at Microsoft, and that's just part of that process towards taking back the district, taking back New York. So we have a long communication cycle on the details of that, but that is the kind of the stepping stones that you'll go through throughout the game.
And we saw two groups during the presentation. So we saw the cleaners, and is it the elite? Is that correct, or how do you call that other team?
We're introducing the factions for the first time at this E3, and our first one that we brought out is the cleaners, and that's what you saw in the demo here, and they're also in the CGI. So there are many factions in the game, and it's an RPG, so you need to come up with realistic, grounded enemies that would be kind of somewhat formed together for you to be fighting against, and that's the role that the factions play in the game. Cleaners are definitely, I guess I would say, iconic. They're kind of freaky. They're not what you would expect. There's a lot of things we try to hit with our factions because you want, obviously, it to be uniform. You need to understand we have archetypes in the game so that you can get gameplay challenges out of the enemies, but they need to be realistic in that, it's not crazy dragons that you'll be fighting in the game. That's the role that factions play for us.
I was going to say then, sort of creating the different sort of character types, the different enemy types, you're having to keep it, even though it's sort of like near future and there's little elements there about near future technology, you're having to create these enemies and sort of like on a basis grounding them in the real world. So is there any sort of challenges in doing that about how far you can take that conceit?
Sure, I mean, absolutely. I think it's one of the most important aspects of the game, and it's also one of the most challenging. But it really, the process we go through is who would actually be there in this scenario. You start from that, the genesis of creating a group, then who might be interesting. There's such a wide variety to choose from in reality in New York of the different groups that are actually there. And then we have to factor in, okay, how does this work with gameplay? How does it work with progression in the game? And that's how we kind of come to the factions in the game.
Talking about that progression, everything you be doing, be it shooting or whatnot, you're earning XP, and we've seen like a very in-depth, very complex skill tree. But the conversation was, it's very flexible. You're not sort of like stuck into one particular path.
Sure.
How does that work?
I mean, we call it mods or modular systems. So the basis is a kind of a baseline level where you would choose a skill. In our case, we've seen in the demos where we have the turret or sentry skill. We have seeker mine, which we've shown, and you would unlock those at a low level. Then as you proceed through the game or progress through the game, you can start to unlock modification slots. And those can change, at first they change maybe the damage they do, they increase the radius of the explosion if it's like a seeker mine. And then later you can unlock even deeper to medium or large mods that can completely change the behavior of the skill. So you can stick things to surfaces, you can really completely change how it works. So it's basically growing a skill tree versus having kind of really defined skills that you have to select from, and they never change.
I think I saw, now correct me if I'm wrong here, but during the presentation there was like almost like a grapple hook connected to a mine. Is that something like that sort of brought the mine to?
The stun trap that is thrown out. No, it's based on basically like if you think of a taser setup. So it's to kind of immobilize and take someone out of a fight. So that's actually a great example of trying to keep something that makes sense, that's realized in the game, that has an RPG function, of stunning an enemy so that you can deal with like the ads as we're doing in the demo there. So that's how we approach basically everything in the game. There are great RPG synergies and kind of gameplay elements that work really well, and then we need to fold those in and realize them in the game, the ones that make sense.
And the cover system's very much very fluid. Basically, we saw a couple of little HUD elements to sort of point you where you want to be entering into cover. So the idea is to keep that as fluid and as smooth as possible.
Yes, the cover. We're a cover-based, tactical combat game. So cover-to-cover movement, the cover positions, the type of cover you take are all really important. They affect the amount of damage you can take, the amount of damage you can do, if you're exposed, if an enemy might see you in a certain position. So all of that is really important in combat.
What's the sort of with you sweeping through the city, ranging through the city? Is it a case of as you clear out these areas, they will remain clear, or will we see enemies sort of like just randomly generated back in? How does that whole system work?
Well, it's a combination of both. I can't go into super detail on that, but I mean, think of it more of course you want to see your effect as you're taking back New York and restoring the city, but also we are taking great pains to make sure that the game doesn't feel like Groundhog Day. So open world games, you spend a lot of time moving back and forth through the same areas, especially in games where you level, to a maximum level. And so creating systems where that content can be changing and based on time of day, based on weather, based on your location, having that variety is really important for, for replay value, for having it feel different from session to session.
The companion app that we saw in the presentation, how's that working? Is that going to be like a free download come launch, and then any player can just jump into any game as long as they're on their friends list?
Sure. I mean, the companion itself is it's almost like an extra player or a player and a half, or a half a player. It usually plays a support role, but it can be offensive. But it can scout. It can, as you saw in the demo, it can kind of debuff or buff enemies. It can mark targets to increase the damage. So we want to have a kind of a real-time, meaningful addition to the game with our drone.
Excellent. Now, Division was revealed. We've got a bit more in depth this E3.
Yes.
What have you guys got next for the next couple of months? Obviously, you're going to recover after getting this done.
Yeah.
But what's the immediate future for you guys? What's the plan next?
I mean, we're just the team is just focusing on the game. I mean, we do have a game to make besides these great fun diversions of E3. So we're just focusing on continuing development of the game so we can get it out as soon as possible, like everyone's waiting for, and trust me, we want it out soon as well.
Listen, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to me. It goes like I cannot wait to play this. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.